Hello, Albsterz here. Today we're going to be having a little look at all the Gnosis and the 8th element uncovered by IslandXD. I have been wanting to watch this theory video for a while because I have been dousing myself in the lore. I've even started reading all the comics for Genshin Impact because I have fallen in love with it. So, Island, lead it away and show us what's going on.
Explain who exactly holds the King Gnosis in the game of Genshin Impact. I will also connect the numerous breadcrumbs left by MiHoYo to explain the identities of the pawn, rooks, bishops, knights, and even the colors of chess.
What?
I covered the chess theory before way back in February. Fast forward 8 months, I realized that video is vastly outdated.
Really?
So I decided to revisit this topic with new perception and information. You've probably seen or heard about the Raiden Shogun is the king theory.
I have not, and that's really, really cool. So there's an 8th element. Oh! Wouldn't that be thingy? Dainsleif? Wouldn't that be him because he's the last one that we're traveling to? That would be really cool. Okay, let's see. I didn't know about this chess theory.
Although this speculation is very interesting, there are many issues with this concept. The basic idea is that if you read the elements on the loading screen from right to left, the Electro Archon should be represented by the king, with the final rook being the 8th element, which is currently undisclosed. Amazing concept, but again, we know things are never so simple in MiHoYo games.
No, they're not.
Let's pinpoint the problems with this theory so that I can provide an alternative possibility that explains the identity of all the pieces in chess.
That's so cool. That is so cool. Gnosis is chess pieces in rook lore enjoyer. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Okay. Let's dive straight in, shall we? Let's see what Island has to say about this.
It is speculated that the 8th element is the unknown power that is associated with Dainsleif. The problem arises when we go back to Dainsleif's dialogue from the Travail trailer. This unknown power from beyond is not associated with the gods of Teyvat. Since this power does not originate from this world, the representation of this unknown element being the second rook doesn't make sense. If it does exist on the chessboard, it should be on the opposing side. But for a moment, let's pretend that the 8th element does exist as the second rook. This effectively makes the Electro-Gnosis the king, which creates another problem within the fundamental rules of chess. The pawn cannot promote into the king, which means besides Raiden Shogun herself, no one can utilize the Electro element. We already know this is not the case since many characters with or without visions can still utilize the power of Electro. And when we consider the rules of chess, when the king falls, the game ends. So who represents the individual pieces? What is the 8th element? And is there a hidden meaning behind the loading screen?
Oh. This is so cool. The way that they've actually theorized it and connected it to an actual chess game is like incredible. And try to find out who the king is. That's going to be cool. So let's see how Island breaks this down.
Let's begin by figuring out the identity of the pawn. Many people believe that the pawn are the vision holders, also known as the allogenes, individuals who are gifted with the possibility of ascension into godhood. But even this has problems when put up against the context of the pawn within chess. The fact of the matter is that vision holders don't have a choice of selection, unlike the pawn, which can promote into any piece it desires. Allogenes are given a vision regardless of their preference, and they seem to activate at random. Upon receiving her vision, Noelle claims that she feels dejected because she obtained the Geo vision rather than the Anima vision. Kaching's vision was practically forced upon her against her will. She even tries to destroy the damn thing several times.
Really? Oh, that must be in a story quest that I've not seen yet. Okay.
Even Kazuha, who was in possession of his friend's Electrovision, could not activate it at will. It only activates temporarily, only to revert back to an empty shell. Now, aside from this problem, even the description of ascension to godhood is highly suspicious. As I previously mentioned in this video, it is my belief that the idea of ascension to godhood has some concerns. I believe that everything is a lie created by Celestia to monitor the Allogenes and hinder them from understanding the true nature of this world. With these points, the most viable choice for the pawn should be the Traveler. Unlike the Allogenes, the Traveler is given a choice. By resonating with the Statue of the Seven, they mimic the skill sets and even the playstyle of its respective Archon. They essentially become a mini Archon themselves. The game further hints why the pawn is the Traveler. When the current Raiden Shogun initially gave up her Gnosis to Yae, she mentions, "You understand the value of Gnosis. Even if you sold it, I trust that you would have exchanged it for something of equal value."
Oh, so she knows that we can just go to Electro, to Geo, to all of them and stuff like that. Oh, holy damn. So the woman that we see in the intro scene for Genshin, she's got to have a connection. Maybe she wouldn't be the 8th. It's going to be someone that we're not suspecting and stuff like that. Especially not Paimon. It can't be Paimon. She's probably going to have some connection, or she might be like the voice like they have in Final Fantasy. I won't go too much into that, but she could just be the voice of the god that we see in the intro.
We know that at the end of Inazuma Archon Quest, Yae does in fact exchange the Electro Gnosis for the life of the Traveler. The value of the Traveler is equal to a Gnosis, reflecting the true worth of the pawn. The name cards from the theater mechanicus also add to this theory. You claim to have seen all the mechanisms, but have you ever considered playing yourself as the pawn? Questioning the Traveler if they ever considered the true meaning of their identity within the game. If all this wasn't already enough, Aether and Lumine are both wearing the colors black and white, an obvious representation of the two colors in chess, being positioned on the opposing side of the game. Now, before I start explaining the identity of the king, let's talk about the existence of the 8th element.
That's huge, because if we are essentially on the opposite sides of the board with Looney and our boy Aether, then Dainsleif could be potentially on the other side as well, even though during the story he's kind of like on equal grounds.
To help us pinpoint the 8th element, we need to talk about Syzygy. The idea of Syzygy comes from Gnosticism, which Genshin Impact takes heavy inspiration from.
What was that?
It revolves around the idea of unification. Basically, two things being paired for the overall picture. This is represented many times in the game. The union of the two travelers. Tevat's internal struggle stemming from the Abyss Order and the gods. The cataclysm caused by the cyclical nature of life and death.
Yeah, that looks crazy.
Even the existence of visions and delusions, the list goes on. With this concept, instead of simply reading the loading screen from right to left, let's see what happens if we pair these elements using the concept of Syzygy. Once we pair these elements, we are left with Anemo, the queen. Now, is there an element that could pair with Anemo to represent the king in Genshin Impact? The god of time. In the world of Tevat, the god of time was often worshipped together with the god of wind. However, the identity of god of time faded from existence many years ago. Ironically, just like how identity of time is forgotten and super cryptic, the element of time also goes unnoticed inside the loading screen.
Who is having their mind blown so far? This goes so deep. Yeah, this is okay. This is like, like, this is nuts. Trying to get all this in, trying to soak as much lore as I can. This, I might get this wrong. Probably will get this wrong. But if I can start to understand this a little bit more, that's going to be really, really cool.
Represented by the loading bar and the background depicting the colors black and white to represent the flow of time. So who symbolizes the god of time? The king that everyone's forgotten for thousands of years. You may think this is a joke, but it wouldn't be a theory without some evidence. Let's begin with Paimon's name. We can learn that the name Paimon comes from the demonology of Lesser Key of Solomon, known as Ars Gotia. The term Argosia refers to the evocation or summoning of demons. It is my speculation that the entities with these demon names are the gods that were victorious after the Archon War.
Oh.
Basically, the end of the Archon War signaling the beginning of their archonship. Barbados, Morox, Baal, and Paimon, all coming from Argosia, signifies that there's an obvious connection between Venti, Zhongli, Paimon, and Makoto, the original
Oh, Makoto. Oh, okay.
Archon. Just like the example of demon names, the statue of the Seven also reflect the original Archons from the Archon War. We can see this in Raiden Shogun's promotional trailer that Makoto had shorter braids than A, the current Electro Archon. These shorter braids can be seen on the Electro statue of the Seven, clearly indicating that these statues are depictions of the original Seven Archons.
Wow.
Interestingly, we can see many aesthetic references of Paimon on these statues as well, from the crown to even their clothes. With the name and appearance considered, the existence of Paimon should be on equal terms with that of the original Seven. Paimon, who can control the flow of time inside the game, as the king who was worshipped alongside the god of wind. Not to mention, Paimon's crown is literally a direct identifier of the king piece in chess. The connection of the Statue of the Seven goes even further. Have you ever wondered what implications these statues have? I believe that the Statue of the Seven is a larger, conceptualized version of a Gnosis. We know two facts about the Statue of the Seven. First, the traveler can resonate with the statue, and second, we can worship the statue.
We can indeed.
Recently, we learned from Raiden Shogun that visions or elemental powers are not given out by the Archons. That means the element of the traveler is not from the Archons, but obtained directly from Celestia. If this is the case, everything starts to make sense. Just like how Archons use their Gnosi as a catalyst to gain power from Celestia, the Traveler uses the statue as the catalyst to obtain their elemental powers.
This is so cool. This is so cool. And if Paimon ended up being an Archon and she's maybe just forgotten her memories or something like that, because we don't know what happened to her and why she ended up in that, pond or whatever she was in when we fished her out. So something could have happened beforehand that made her lose her memories, and that's why she ended up on the beach in the water like we did. And maybe throughout the game she's trying to learn information and stuff like that, and she might get her memories back. That's what I've like. We'll see. This is really interesting.
This means that the Archons and the Traveler both resonate with Celestia directly. We even know that after Traveler apologized to Venti for using the power of the statue, Venti basically laughs it off and changes the subject. Also, if the Gnosis and the Statue of the Seven are directly connected to Celestia, that may explain why Archon's powers are directly related to the level of rule in their regions. As people worship the statue, the power is transferred to the Gnosis, with Celestia being the main hub. Because a Gnosis and the Statue of the Seven serves the same purpose, I believe that they will look similar, if not identical. All the statues basically look like chess pieces with the identifier expressed at the top. If this is true, which Gnosis belongs to which Archons? If the Statue of the Seven is the direct representation of a Gnosis, we can come to simple conclusions. The animal statue symbolizing the queen, the Geo statue indicating a rook, and the Electro statue depicting a bishop. But what about the others? While I was staring at a wall for hours trying to answer this question, I came across an interesting idea from a user named Cole Loves You on Twitter. They speculated that the slimes are connected to each respective elemental archons. Out of curiosity, I decided to read each slime's backstory to see if there were any direct connections to the archons. What I found was shocking. Animal Slime's story describes the ability to float, becoming special vehicle used as a method of transportation. floating obviously relating to Venti's ability, while the special vehicle of transportation being literally the Dvalin Express. The Geoslime's description talks about the story of a golden Geoslime king and his relationship to gemstones and ores. Gold representing Mora, gemstones referring to Zhongli's knowledge in precious rocks, and the story of Ashtaha connecting to ores. Electro Slimes are presented in two different variants, each speculated to be the two opposite polarities, screaming the connection of the story of Raiden Shogun expressed within Makoto and A. With these correlations, we can even hypothesize on other Archon stories in the future. The Pyro Slime covers the idea of anger and depression, noted to be the most expressive slime, hinting at potential personality fluctuation of the Pyro Archon in the story of Natlin. Hydro Slime's external
This is not. Get reading all the archive stuff in Genshin. If they're leaving hints like this, and Island is like correct with the stuff that's going to be happening later, because you can see through the archives of. Oh, holy damn, okay.
Stature is known to be related to its environment, and it attempts to entrap its enemies, foreshadowing the authority and the power of the god of justice in Fontaine through the means of trial and tribulation.
Holy
the
damn.
Cryo Slimes are known to freeze their surrounding atmosphere to form a protective shell, also being considered as the freest species of all slimes that can cross oceans and seas, explaining the Saritsa's change of demeanor to protect herself after the cataclysm and her diplomatic ties around the entire world of Tavant.
Wow.
And finally, the Dendro Slime hides its true form to trick and hunt its prey, some regarding it as a slime that has been parasitized by some special plant. The identity of the god of wisdom,
we're gonna be getting that next.
their true appearance due to some force outside of their control. Judging by these speculations, I feel that these slimes are expressed as a direct link to the Archons. So, if these slimes are related to the Archons, how can this help us figure out the identity of their Gnosis? During my research, I've come to another realization that seemed very purposeful by MiHoYo. The appearance of the slimes are presented to us in pairs, which was obviously a premeditated decision. And when we order these pairs, it mimics the same order and the coupling we created on the loading screen from earlier.
This is like that meme where he's connecting everything and it's all coming to G. What? Holy damn.
Pyro and Hydro Slimes having the same horns, Dendro and Electro Slimes showing similar obtrusions, Cryo and Geo Slimes harnessing the same protective layer, with Animal Slime having wings, perhaps mirroring Paimon, the king. If all these connections were truly intended, means that the Gnosi do in fact repeat just like the pieces of chess. King is the representation of Paimon and is paired with the Queen, the Animal Archon. The two Rooks belonging to the Geo and Cryo Archons, two Bishops for Dendro and Electro Archons, and the two Knights for Pyro and Hydro Archons. Now I'm sure you're asking the questions, why was Raiden Shogun's Gnosis never shown? Why are there 8 pawns? Is there a pawn Gnosis? I personally believe that on a development perspective, it's crucial to withhold information about the repeating Gnosis as long as possible. If it does happen, I feel like it's years later once we reach the Pyro region to show the second Knight. Also, in my theory, the Traveler is simply a representation of the pawn without an actual Gnosis. After all, Aether and Lumine did not participate in the Archon War. But if I were to match things...
No, because we're from a different star and stuff like that. And we're still trying to return back to our original star. That's crazy. If Paimon is the god, I know it's all memed and stuff like that, but maybe... I think that she's lost her memories, and going along with us, she's gonna get her memories back as well.
Directly, the 7 pawns could be for each element, and the final pawn being the original power of the Traveler. But since MiHoYo has officially confirmed that Aether and Lumine are both canon, I feel like they are just simple conceptualized versions of the pawn. And no matter who you picked, one belongs to white and the other belongs to black. Now, speaking of sides, let's talk about who the black and white pieces are.
Ooh.
Okay, before I share my thoughts on the black and white pieces, I want to emphasize that there's not a lot of information to go off of. These claims are highly speculative and consider them as food for thought. Now, with that said, to find the identities of the opposing side of the chessboard, I use 3 reference points. First, the story of each region and the quest item we received at the end of the Archon quest. Second, the concept of Syzygy that I mentioned earlier in this video. And lastly, the idea that each piece from both sides should reflect similar level of strength.
So surely some of the Harbingers are going to be in this, reflecting the strength and stuff like that.
For simplicity, let's assign the white pieces to the gods that are associated with Celestia. This will effectively make the black pieces entities that do not belong in the world of Teyvat. For the pawns, 2 travelers. One traveling through the world of Teyvat and the other siding with the Abyss Order. Now, I speculate that the Black Queen is gold. With the idea of Syzygy, Dvalin and Venti directly mirrors the pairing of Durin and Gold, both of their stories revolving around Dragonspine in the region of Mondstadt, and receiving the item Tainted Blood from Dvalin, which is connected to Durin, makes it highly suspicious. For the Black Rook, I theorize that it belongs to Ozio, the overlord of the Vortex, which shares the deep history with Zhongli. Ozio was summoned by recreated sigils of permissions, which I speculate to be from the same source as the corrupted karma that is used to create delusions. Liyue Archon Quest also rewarding us with the monolith fragment from Ozio. In terms of the Black Bishop, I believe Urabashi fits the bill. The serpent god from the Dark Sea, which was defeated by Raiden Shogun. But we never receive a quest item connected to Urabashi. So what's the deal? Considering that the Electro-Gnosis was never shown to us, could possibly hint that Urabashi, or the Black Bishop,
is in power of the Gnosis?
Already off the chessboard, since it was defeated in the past. But we do receive an item called Funerary Mask belonging to Senora. Personally, I believe that this item is connected to the Fatui in the future and not Celestia. But again, all this is highly speculative, and you are welcome to disagree.
No, I'm just sucking all this in.
Pieces,
this is good.
I strongly suspect that they are beings that oppose the individual archons in the future. As for the Black King, I would have to say Daneslave. Daneslave's past with the Abyss sibling reflects Paimon to the Traveler, both having weird-ass capes and other similarities that are very thought-provoking. Paimon being the god of time, and Daneslave having the unknown power from beyond. But hold on a minute, what's the deal with Tsaritsa? If this is in fact all a game of chess, how can she be taking out the chess pieces that are on the same side? The explanation is simple. The less pieces that exist on the board, the more vulnerable the player becomes. But because she can't physically take out the pieces from the same side, this act of sabotaging and sandbagging is done through the Harbingers, the ones who are empowered by delusions. Delusions which are created from the same corrupted karma that is associated with the other side. In a sense, maybe Senora is the Black Bishop instead of Urabashi. We did get the Funerary Mask at the end of Inazuma, and she didn't have a vision, meaning she's not connected to Celestia. Her power of flames coming from when she was the Crimson Witch, and her cryo powers coming from her delusion. Regardless, now we are left with the 2 players of chess. The white player could simply be the sustainer of heavenly principles, or Celestia. Obviously, there's some connection between Paimon and the sustainer, but I simply lack information.
And they've not gave us anything yet as well. Trying to suck all this in is like, holy damn. Like, wow. This video has definitely been worth the wait to watch this.
But I do feel that they are not the same, but related in some weird way within the MiHoYo universe. With that said, who is the opposing player? I have no idea. Maybe it's just the Abyss Order.
Maybe?
But since this is all for entertainment anyway, let me know your wildest thoughts on who you think the 2 players are in the comments below. After all, this is just a theory.
Well, the woman that we see at the beginning could be the opposing side to Paimon. So Paimon is our king of R1, and then the one that barred us from going to the other star could be. But that is all just a Genshin theory.
If you enjoyed this video, smash like and consider subscribing for more theories in the future. Also, if you have any questions, I stream here on YouTube Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So make sure to drop by if you just want to hang out and talk about Genshin Impact lore and theories. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Make sure you go and subscribe to IslandXD. This theory was amazing, and we will be looking at more of his theories later on. But if you did enjoy this video, then leave a like and a comment down below. Boom, 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 boom. So guys, thanks all round, and I will see you in my next video.
3 and
Blah, 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 blah.
Count what you have now. Don't count what you don't have.